Hello everyone, this is Jessica Toothman, and in this video we will be discussing the Optimal Ethics System Checkup and recommendations for the Home Depot. The Optimal Ethics System Checkup resulted in a total of 43 yeses, 24 sometimes, and 14 no's. The organizational assessment indicated that while Home Depot is performing fairly well in regards to being an ethical organization, they still have much room for improvement. The checkup revealed two top performing areas in which Home Depot was performing very well. Those areas are community outreach and environmental management, each scoring 7 yeses during the assessment. The checkup also revealed 3 areas that need severe improvement. Those areas are ethics training, which scored 0 yeses, 0 sometimes, and 7 no's. Ethical decision making, with a score of 1 yes, 1 sometimes, and 1 no. And ethical leadership, work goals, and performance appraisals, with 4 yeses, 6 sometimes, and 0 no's. The ethics training analysis indicated that the company does not have a formal annual ethics training program. Instead, the company relies on a brief overview of their own business code of conduct and ethics given during orientation. None of the interviewees, former employees for Home Depot, stated that they were ever given an ethics training session or workshop after they were hired. The first recommendation in regards to ethics training is for them to implement an ethics training program and select a trustworthy facilitator. The facilitator must be trustworthy because employees react differently during ethics workshops depending on who the facilitator is. Therefore, selecting a facilitator that employees do trust will result in a more successful training period. The second recommendation in regards to ethics training is that the facilitator explain the competitive advantages of ethical behavior. Home Depot does give their employee what they call success sharing. It's part of the profit sharing, and explaining how ethical behavior influences the business itself and the employee profit shares will get employee attention. Another ethics training recommendation is that Home Depot include fraud and theft exploration in their ethics training program. Research indicated that Home Depot has fallen victim to a number of fraud and theft related incidences over the years. Examples include the 4 merchandising managers who were accused of fraud in 2007 and consequently fired, and the manager in Arizona who was charged with stealing over $140,000 worth of merchandise from the store during his time. Fraud and theft exploration will teach employees how to detect fraud and theft. It also presents an opportunity to proactively prevent such incidences by gathering employee input on how it can be prevented and how it might occur. Another ethics training recommendation is the benchmark to an ideal employee. This gives an opportunity for the facilitator to expand on what Home Depot expects from their associates and an opportunity for employee self-analysis. The ethical decision-making analysis indicated that Home Depot does believe the ethics to be an important part of its decision-making process. However, employees are not trained to use an ethical decision-making framework, nor are they comfortable engaging one another in ethical discussions. The first suggestion in regards to ethical decision-making is to utilize the Raytheon Action Decision-Making Model. This model should be used because it reminds employees that not acting when encountered with an ethic dilemma is the same as, or it is an action of itself. Choosing not to do anything is choosing to do it. Also, ACTION is an easy to remember acronym for the employees, and it allows the opportunity for employees to consider the organizational values and policies through the acronym when faced with an ethical dilemma. Another recommendation is to teach employees to recognize ethical hazards. The reason for this is that it guides employees in recognizing the ethical hazard so they can apply the decision-making framework. If an employee doesn't recognize that they are in an ethical situation, they would not be apt to apply decision-making framework. Additionally, recognizing ethical hazards and explaining how that works helps employee explain the use of excuses and rationalizations people might use in order to make unethical behavior seem okay. The last recommendation for ethical decision-making is to utilize the Giving Voice to Values framework. The framework, put together by Gentile, helps employees understand that they will undoubtedly encounter ethical conflict, but also to understand that they all have a shared sense of goals and values, and many of the beliefs that they have in common with other people. And it creates an environment where ethical issues can be discussed openly so that employees can comfortably engage one another. The checkup regarding the ethical leadership work goals and performance appraisals indicated one primary issue, and that was ethical leadership. Employees claimed that there's an obvious disconnect between company values and local management, meaning that the corporate offices indicate one set of values and some local managers behave in the exact opposite way. The first recommendation in regards to ethical leadership is to utilize ethical leadership surveys. These are done annually, where employees have the opportunity to evaluate their managers on whether or not they're behaving ethically in the workplace. These surveys will also serve to help senior management recognize poor leadership before it becomes a serious problem in the local area. Another recommendation is the inclusion of employee code of ethics performance appraisals. There are several ways to include employee code of ethics performance appraisals. However, it would be easiest to add statements about the code of ethics into existing appraisal forms. This would result in a more holistic view of the employees, and it would allow management to recognize ethical issues before they cause harm to stakeholders. This is especially true if the existing appraisal schedule is less than a year. It would be a better benefit to include them in the existing appraisals than it would be to wait and for a year to determine ethical problems. The last recommendation in regard to ethical leadership, work goals, and performance appraisals is to be sure to provide specific and useful appraisal feedback. Without providing feedback, the appraisals are essentially useless. Employees have no way to establish how they will improve themselves, and managers, without reviewing those appraisals, will not be able to correct behaviors that are not ethical. So it helps employees improve unethical behaviors and allows an opportunity for managers to praise employees for ethical behaviors, which is equally as important as improving unethical behaviors. And last but not least, these are the references used throughout the presentation. I hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you.